Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there friends, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. And today in the Bible Bistro, we're going to be talking about verses 9, 10, and 11. Now, yesterday we began in Psalm 27, and looked at verses 7 and 8. And I said yesterday that there's there's a change that takes place between the first half and the second half. The second half of the psalm, beginning in verse 7, it's very, it's not like the first part. The first part's very exciting, It's a confident statement of faith. You can just feel the overwhelming sense of confidence in God's salvation and His deliverance and His help and so forth. He's not afraid of the enemy. The enemy's going to come against him. If war rises, I'm going to trust in the fact that God is my light and my salvation. He is my very present help. So David is, reveling in all that. But then you come to verse 7 and you just feel like, wait a minute, what's happened here? Because he says, there in verse 7, answer my prayer. And then in verse 8, you said to my heart, seek my face. Your face, O Lord, I will seek. Well, what's going on? Well, in 9, 10, and 11, we have something of an answer about what's happening here. Now, let's notice. I'm going to read from my translation verses 9, 10, and 11. I want you to follow along with me. Do not hide your face from me. Do not thrust aside your servant in anger. You have been my help. Do not abandon me, and do not forsake me, O God of my salvation. For my father and my mother, they have forsaken me, but the Lord will receive me. Teach me, O Lord, your way, so lead me in a straight path because of my adversaries. So you notice verses 9 through 11, and especially in verse 9, notice how many do nots we have. There's 4 times he says do not hide your face, do not thrust aside your servant, do not abandon me, do not forsake me. 4 different do nots here. He's asking the Lord to stay near. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Don't hide, don't thrust aside, don't abandon me, don't forsake me. We feel now the depth of his despair. He has no one else. And in verse 10, we find out why he has no one else. He says, my father and my mother, they have forsaken me. Well, can it get any worse than that? I mean, when your best friend forsakes you, that's one thing. And when, your acquaintances forsake you and call you names, that's something else. But when it's family, you can't really get rid of family. Family's going to be there most of the time, all the time. And here we have David saying, they have forsaken me. Now, he asks the Lord not to forsake him. Very last do not forsake me. And he says, my father and my mother, they have forsaken me. So he has nobody else. We feel now his depth of loss, why this is such a dark period. And then he says there in verse 10, but the Lord will receive me. So he's still confident in the Lord is light and salvation and help, strength for life, because he says the Lord will receive me. So still some confidence there in the Lord, even in the midst of this deep shade that he's living under. Teach me, O Lord, your way, so lead me in a straight way because of my adversaries. How awful is it for in one verse him to say, mother and father have forsaken me, and in the next verse mention his adversaries. Because when we read that, we think, is he considering mom and dad adversaries? Are they so against him that maybe they're helping Saul to track him down, or I don't know, whatever is going on? We don't really know what's happening, but for some reason, mom and dad, they're not in his camp. So in this dark place, he prays this prayer. Do not hide your face from me. Do not thrust aside your servant. Do not abandon me. Do not forsake me. You've been my help, O God of my salvation. Now we understand, don't we? We understand why the second half of the psalm is so different than the first half. because of this forsaking that's taken place with his family. All right, join me again tomorrow. We're going to look at verses 12, 13, and 14 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.